Welcome to today's Explainer. Look, if you're a business owner, a supply chain manager, or really anyone running a small to medium enterprise right now, we need to talk because the stakes have literally never been higher. Today, we're focusing squarely on why ESG, environmental, social, and governance reporting, is no longer just some corporate buzzword. It's not a niche trend for massive tech companies. It has absolutely evolved into a non-negotiable survival mandate for your business. We're going to look at the data, the shifting global requirements, and exactly how you can navigate this massive transition without losing your mind. I want to jump right into a quote directly from our source material that really hits the nail on the head. Tomorrow's trade networks will not be built on price alone. They will be built on proof. Just think about that for a second. Historically, right, if you had the best price or maybe the fastest delivery time, you won the contract. End of story. But the rules of global trade have fundamentally changed. ESG is now the new language of trust. If you are part of anyone else's supply chain, whether you trade, manufacture, or supply products across borders, you are actively being evaluated right now on your transparent operational proof.
Section 1. The Great Supply Chain Reset.
To understand why this shift is happening so incredibly fast, we have to look at the immediate threat facing SMEs in the current global market. Basically, we're living through a massive reset. Right before our eyes, global supply chains are being completely dismantled and rebuilt. You've got tariffs, trade wars, and strict new transparency laws forcing massive enterprises to audit absolutely every single link of their supply chains. Suddenly, that solid handshake agreement you've relied on for 20 years, it's breaking under the pressure of compliance. And guess who gets caught right in the middle? Small and medium businesses. And this brings us to a pretty stark reality. Large corporations are under mounting pressure from regulators and investors to keep their own licenses, funding, and public reputation intact. To do that, they urgently need to align with clean, compliant, and transparent partners. So, if you can't prove your ESG compliance with concrete data, policies, or documentation, your contracts and long-term agreements are at imminent risk. Big buyers simply aren't going to wait around for you to catch up. They will quietly replace you with suppliers who can guarantee that compliance and prove their transparency from day one.
Section 2. ESG, the survival currency.
Okay, so the threat is real, but let's shift gears and look at the solution. We need to understand the paradigm shift of how businesses must operate now to not just survive, but to actually thrive and secure revenue in this new economy. So let's quickly demystify this acronym. ESG stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance. At its core, it's really just a way of measuring a company's performance beyond just profit. It provides transparent operational accountability to stakeholders. We've got to move past the old idea that this is just environmental activism. It's not. This is about measurable business resilience. It's about showing investors, lenders, and your partners exactly how responsibly and securely you operate behind the scenes.
And what's really interesting is how these massive, abstract concepts break down into highly practical metrics. These are the actual data points that act as your passport to the global economy. For example, environmental factors measure your impact on nature, things like your energy use and your waste reduction. Social factors assess how you treat people. We're talking employee turnover rates or the actual hours you invest in training. And governance, that covers how decisions get made in your business, focusing on ethics policies and leadership accountability. Collecting this specific data transforms sustainability from a vague, feel-good concept into measurable, undeniable proof.
Section 3, CSR versus ESG.
Now, you might be wondering, haven't companies been doing this for years through CSR programs? Well, yes and no. There is an absolutely critical difference between the older voluntary corporate models you're probably used to and the new mandatory standards we're facing today. Let's bust a major myth right now. ESG is not just corporate philanthropy. Corporate social responsibility, or CSR, focuses on voluntary good deeds. It's an external initiative that basically says to the world, hey, we care. ESG goes way, way further. It's about core accountability. It embeds these principles directly into your business operations and says, we prove it. Modern stakeholders demand data-backed action and measurable outcomes. Declarations and platitudes just do not cut anymore. Honestly, without hard data, those statements can easily be misconstrued as greenwashing.
Section 4. Demystifying ESG frameworks. So, once you accept that you need data-backed proof, the very next hurdle is trying not to drown in an alphabet soup of regulations. The good news? You do not have to invent a reporting system from scratch. Instead, you use an ESG framework. Think of frameworks like the scaffolding of a building, but for your ESG reporting. They are simply structured guidelines that define exactly what topics you need to disclose, how to measure your progress, and most importantly, how to present that information to the big buyers who are demanding it. Let's organize the top 3 frameworks so it isn't overwhelming. First up, there's GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative. These are very broad, globally adopted standards that cover all areas of ESG. Next is SASB, the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board. This one is great because it hyper-focuses on industry-specific metrics that are financially relevant to you. And finally, TCFD, the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, which zeroes in entirely on climate risk. My advice here is simple. Clarity beats complexity. Just choose the framework that best matches your specific industry and your current resources. Pick something you can actually sustain and grow with over time.
And connecting your chosen framework to real-world regulations is absolutely vital, because the law is moving incredibly fast right now. We're seeing climate-related financial disclosure proposals from the SEC in the US, the CSRD is rolling out across Europe, and there are massive global harmonization efforts by the ISSB. They are all pointing in one single direction: mandatory ESG transparency. For SMEs, yes, this creates a new obligation, but it's also a massive opportunity. Companies that get ahead of these changes gain incredible credibility in the market and completely avoid that chaotic scramble of reactive compliance later on.
Section 5. The ESG reporting process. So how do we actually pull this off without completely derailing your day-to-day operations? Let's transition from theory into a highly practical action plan. You can turn these ESG commitments into a credible, ongoing process by following 6 condensed steps. Number 1, pinpoint the exact metrics that actually matter to your operations. Number 2, select the reporting framework that aligns with your industry, just like we talked about. 3, gather the data from across your organization, whether that's pulling energy bills or checking employee turnover stats. 4, craft a report that combines this hard data with the real story of your business. 5, strongly consider having that data verified externally to really boost your credibility. And 6, publish it proactively and continuously improve. This isn't a one-and-done event. It's an iterative journey to build real stakeholder trust.
Section 6. Best Practices for SMEs.
As we reach our final segment, let's validate a very real struggle for small businesses here. If you have ever tried to solve this by buying enterprise ESG software, you have probably been incredibly frustrated. Most of those platforms require a PhD to navigate and were never, ever designed for smaller enterprises. They come with high subscription costs, rigid templates that completely ignore your specific industry nuances, and a total lack of human guidance. Data entry just becomes this massive chore that steals your focus from actual growth. You shouldn't be overpaying just to remain non-compliant. Instead, SMEs should rely on simplified frameworks and guided templates that actually reflect their capacity. You need tools that simplify the process, not complicate the whole shebang.
So practically speaking, how do you approach this? Above all else, be transparent. Even partial progress, if it's honestly reported, builds far more trust than some illusion of polished perfection. Integrates your ESG goals directly with your financial reporting. Make sure to actually engage your employees, your suppliers, and your customers in this process. Keep your data fresh by reviewing it annually. But here is perhaps the most important takeaway of all. Start small and scale smart. You absolutely do not have to measure everything on day one. Focus on 3 to 5 key metrics that matter most to your business. Demonstrate those results and expand over time. Consistency matters so much more than scope.
Ignoring ESG is no longer about rejecting some ideological agenda. It is rejecting a massive business opportunity. Transparency literally is the new currency of global business. The rules of the game are being rewritten around accountability and visibility. And the SMEs that act right now to document their practices, they're the ones who will secure their survival, protect their revenue, and earn trust in brand new markets. So I'm going to leave you with this question to evaluate today. Is your business ready to genuinely prove its transparency, or will you allow yourself to be quietly left behind in the new global economy? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I highly encourage you to look at your own operations and take that first step toward measurable proof today.